Hello, my name is Andrew Gannon. I am one of 4 artists showing here at DCA in the exhibition We Contain Multitudes. It's only a little more than 5 years since I started centering disability in my work. I had the sort of slow dawning realization that it is a sort of an exclusion of disability within my work because of a tacit understanding that the art world or the world in general would rather disability was invisible. So when I realized that and it became necessary that I did that, it did feel very radical.
I'm Charlotte Hollinshead. I'm the Head of Artist Development at Action Space. And Action Space is an arts organisation who support learning disabled artists. Nnena first joined Action Space in 1999. She came with a group of other adults from a local day centre for people with learning disabilities. And it was very clear early on that she was an amazing talent. She worked really hard straight off and was clearly obsessed and needed to layer lots and lots of materials.
My name is Lafarge. I'm a writer living in Glasgow. I'm from Hastings originally, and I've been living in Scotland for the last 15 years. So I went to art school in Edinburgh. I studied fine art, and while I was there, I really gravitated towards making work that was very research-based. It often involved a form of narrative. And I think it was during that time that I realised that the form and the medium that I felt most comfortable in, and also the most playful and intuitive in, was writing and language.
I'm Jo Longhurst. I'm one of the artists in We Contain Multitudes. I have several different works in the show, one dating back to 2012 and also more recent work that I've made over this last year as a commission for the show.
In the exhibition I have sculptures, paintings and print. So the sculptures start with limb casts made from my left arm. I use plaster bandage, which is a material that sort of straddles both medical use and art world use. Taking a limb cast is the first step in how one would make a prosthesis. So these works are playing with the idea of a prosthetic and what it might be for. A lot of the sculptures in the show think about the ambiguous space around limb difference, this sort of space that is an assumed site of loss. I'll kind of bind in either other objects or kind of, as in a lot of the works in the show, other casts, which then accumulate to create these cluster forms. So the paintings in the exhibition are also sort of exploring this sort of space around limb difference. The paintings again make the negative space visible, and they're made on drop cloths, just cheaply bought painters' drop sheets that are laid out on the ground outside, and using myself as a stencil and then repeating that sort of ridiculous action over and over again to create an image.
Nnena's process is, it's amazing to watch her working and how it's unfolded over the years. At the core of it is her need to layer and to bind and to bring things together. And you can see that both in her 2D work and her sculptural work, this need to kind of bring forms together. Nnena's always taking a line on a journey. And I think between 2021 and 2023, she developed a really significant body of 2D works, which are predominantly drawings, some kind of drawing, painting combined. She now tends to work in either pairs or triptychs when she's drawing. Not always, but generally. And she echoes, so she does a pair of drawings together and she'll echo as she's working that line, will go back and forth. So the drawings, they change quite radically, but you can see where she left off from one pair and how that moves into the next pair of drawings. She's drawing again now, so she's continued that series in 2025. And again, the works are so sophisticated, and the drawing, that line just just keeps reshaping itself. Her sculptural work is also taking a line on a journey. You see it in her drawing practice that Nnena's wanting to bring forms together. Her sculptural practice is just this real physical embodiment of that, and her work is just getting bigger and bigger.
The work that I have in We Contain Multitudes is in two parts. There's a series of 8 paintings. They were all made during a period of a sudden worsening of a lot of underlying conditions. I lost a lot of mobility quite quickly. I was grieving not being able to read and write and think because that had become the majority of my practice, but it was also how I supported myself. I was very frustrated and in a lot of pain, and I was also having to spend a lot of time dealing with various kinds of bureaucracy, like trying to get disability benefits and to prove that I was not able to work, and also to try and navigate what support was available from the NHS. And I started painting really just as a way to try and get something out of that time that I was stuck there, and a way to deal with the grief, but also I think a way to try and find a form of pleasure in spite of the pain. And so I used things that were available to me within the limits of that time. So I used like cheap paper and very light paints and very light brushes, and I just painted the things around me. When I started installing the work, I started incorporating kinesiology tape, which is something that I use to support my joints and to support my muscles. The shapes that you have to cut the tape into leaves these kind of butterfly-shaped remnants, and I always thought it was a shame to waste them, so I started using those to attach the paintings to the wall, and they became part of the work as well. The other part of the show is a new pamphlet of poems that I've written. The poems draw on 2 texts. One of them is a poem called The Sick Rose by William Blake. The other one is a medieval text from the 13th century called The Romance of the Rose. And in the sequence of poems, I was really trying to create a different vocabulary for pain, because I think we have quite a limited way of talking about pain. We're like asked to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, but anyone who's lived with chronic pain will know that it's just it's so much more intense than that, and I wanted to get at something of that intensity and that interiority, and also the way that it's such a overwhelming personal experience, but it's something that no one else around you can see.
I work over long periods of time in projects, and all of these projects are ongoing, but they run in parallel with each other. And in 2021, I started a new project, CRIP. I decided to work with bindweed as a way of describing the experience of people with unseen conditions and illnesses. I felt that bindweed is a really unloved plant. It gets quite a bad rap. You often see it on the sidelines. It's always in cultured land and land disturbed by human interaction, but it's kind of sidelined. So it's kind of everywhere, but people either don't see it or they really don't like seeing it. So I thought this might be a good way of working with the idea of disability or unseen disability and kind of the social attitudes that are current. There's quite a parallel between that and our attitudes to bindweed. So I used this motif as a starting point for the CRIP project, but I've developed it in various different ways. I'd been working on a series of collages, and I wanted to make a really large-scale installation for the show, building on the multiples within the collages. Each collage is actually made up of a film still, which is taken from the moving image piece, which is also in the show, Here Now. It's a clip of bindweed growing up grey reeds and blowing in the wind. So I took this individual still and printed it out at classic photo package sizes. And then in the studio, I laid them on top of each other, and then I rephotographed them, shifting the position every now and then. So each of the collages is similar but different. So I had this whole series of collages, and for the show I built up a large number of them. And then I printed them in the studio on your A3 copier. So just laser jet prints on recycled paper. So very ordinary materials. And I also used standard size paper card boxes to frame them. But within that, I've built an installation which gives a sense of persistence and growth, but at the same time it shows the kind of diversity and variety within even just one single image that I was using. And I liked the idea of this for the show so much that I called it CRIP, We Contain Multitudes.
The conversation around disability does seem to be changing, and We Contain Multitudes as a project and as an exhibition is part of that. So I'm very happy to be part of an exhibition like this. I'm thrilled to be showing with Nnena and Joe and Daisy.
Yeah, We Contain Multitudes, well, it's a great title, and I think really important for Nnena to be positioned not just as a contemporary artist, but as a disabled artist as well. It's part of her identity, it's part of who she is. And then to be showing alongside other artists who identify as disabled or having chronic conditions, but being platformed in such a high-level way is really, really important.
We Contain Multitudes is, I think, the first time I will have shown visual art in an institutional show in nearly 10 years. And it's also the first show that I've done since I became disabled. We Contain Multitudes is really the first time that I've been trying to experiment with how my writing and how visual work might coexist with each other and complicate each other in the gallery space.
So it's been a really special experience being involved in the development of the We Contain Multitudes exhibition. I've dreamed of making some of these large-scale works for quite a long time, and the commissioners enabled me to realise them within this kind of beautiful space. But more importantly, it's been so interesting and supportive meeting the other artists who are exhibiting and seeing how our various, very different works speak to each other. I think it's a beautifully curated show. The ideas behind it, looking at support and structures and restriction and binding, really play out through the whole show.